Hey guys, welcome to another episode of LFA Shop. This week we're back on the Corolla. Alright, so if you didn't see last week's episode, we got all the rear end stuff painted, ready to go back in. So I just need to get all this stuff under the car and get it all rolling. And then this episode I should have wheels. We should have the whole suspension, everything done. Should have probably most of the brake lines done. Whether I plumb them up or not is a different story. And then we'll see how far we can get. But that's a very achievable target. So get this thing rolling this episode. Maybe steering, maybe braking. We'll see. Alright, so I've got the leaf springs in. They're just bolted in the front. I'm going to bolt back in and then diff in with just the center in it, but I need to make a brake line and stuff. And then once it's all bolted together, then I'll put the axles and the drum brakes on. Just try and make it a little bit lighter and a little bit easier for myself. And then Tim's here, he's laying on the ground over there working on his 80 series. Alright, so I've got the leaf springs bolted in. Now I need to move on to the diff and make a new hard line across the top. So what I'm going to do is pull the axles out, bolt the backing plates just on loosely, make a new hard line, and then pull it apart, put the diff in, then put all the bits on the diff. Alright, so a bit of time has passed again. Saturday I had a bunch of mates over, so I got the diff and everything back in. Made a new brake line and all that sort of stuff for the back. All the brakes are all on, the axles are in, everything's all bolted up, it's got all the rubber pads and stuff in there. It's all nice and proper. So then Richard got the job of the keys, which is a horrible job. So now this car has a full set of matching keys, so they're re-keyed. I just need to finish putting them back together and then put them in the car, which won't take too long. And then Ronnie was helping me build some steering, so this took quite a long time. And this goes around a Ke10 column. So the shaft that goes from the rack to the column, I think it's called the intermediate shaft, we shortened that about 25mm, and that brought the column and everything closer to the firewall. And then we're changing the mounting up so that it will fit the car properly and not look real janky, because apparently 10 years ago this was my idea. Two of those bolt holes, or two of those bolts are for the dash and two of those are for the column, and it just moves everything forwards like 100mm. Whereas if we shorten the intermediate shaft 25mm, everything kind of fits. So I don't know what I was thinking, but we're going to fix that. Then the other thing I want to try and do today is finish off the brake lines. So we've got most of it done, just need to do a few more joints. So one here and one at the back. So we'll see how we go, we'll see how we get on. Then hopefully in the next day or two my wheels will be here, and then we can get this thing on the ground and see what it looks like. But we're getting somewhere and it feels pretty good. So I got the driver's door locked back in, and Richard did a wicked job. It feels really good. So the next step with this column is to take this bracket off. So this for a Ke10, this mounts to the underside of the dash. For a Ke10 you have this, which is a really little bracket compared to this guy. This column has bearings and is collapsible, whereas the stock one is a spike that points at your nostrils. So what we're going to do is use the Ke10 stuff, which also has the U-joints on the bottom to go to the rack. But we're going to cut this bracket off. So then Ronnie and I made this bent piece of metal, which was really hard. So drill this off, and then this guy will go on the top there, like that. So to mount in a factory way, like the Ke10, but will actually work with the Ke10 column. So let's drill this off and see how far we can get. Alright, so I drilled those 4 spot welds out. One of them not quite enough and it ripped through. So then got a big old hammer, smack that bracket off. So I'm going to need to grind these ones flat and weld that one up and grind it flat again. So then I just put this bracket in the car. Got the driver's side, the left hand side. Not that it matters at this stage, but it will later. So I'm just going to measure this and then drill this guy out to suit those holes. And then put it on the column and put it in the car and see if it all fits up. Alright, so I got the bracket all cut down, got some holes drilled, then made the other side of it. So the original way that this column is mounted has a plate like that, and then the column goes in here, squished together. So replicated that, then the dashboard on top of this. Then I've cut off the bracket, which I showed you, and just ground down those welds. So now this fits on here really nicely. A little bit of rubber in there or something to insulate it, and it will be really snug. So that's pretty much all I can do with this thing for now, but that's a good start. Alright, so the next job is something I've been putting off, is remaking this brake line here. So unfortunately it's a different material to the rest of the brake lines in the engine bay. I did have a piece, but it was too short. So I've very carefully bent all of these so it bends nicely against the chassis rail, up to the firewall and then down under the car. So it's super neat, and there's a join just after the firewall there. So I'm glad that I got it all done. It's just really fiddly. So pretty happy with it, fits pretty good. Just need to make it attach because it currently just sort of floats, and I'm sure that will rattle. So another thing I need to do with these brake lines is attach this guy, and then there's one at the back that I still need to do, but I need a new flexi hose because it's too short. Alright, so I've just moved on to the steering column, and the mount that we made works pretty good, and there's a fair bit of adjustment in it, both sideways and back and forth. So I've got it reasonably centered, and I think it's about the right amount out. I did mark it, but I marked it in a spot you can't see when it's bolted in, so that's smart. The next problem is this pedal just touches the side of the column, so we're going to have to move that across a little bit, which is okay. And I need to pick up on a bolt hole that's just here on the top, and pick up on the pedals maybe, and try and brace that nice and out of the way. Having a bit of a brain fart with this one and can't work it out. I think I'll come down off the pedals and then a really sharp angle up to the bolt hole, but that doesn't really seem as good as it could be, so I'm just going to have a bit of a break and think about it and come back to it. So yesterday I tasked myself with making the steering column mount. So the top one I've shown you before, and then the bottom one, what I did is come off the back of the pedal box and then a little tab just down here. So it's welded to the back of the pedal box. It's not in the way at all. It's a big nice piece of angle line. Everything's got clearance everywhere. And then this is on an angle that I had to work out in the car, which was a bit of a pain. But it looks pretty good. The only thing I didn't do, which I probably should have, is open this hole up a little bit, because the pin that pushes from the pedal to the master is on a bit of an angle, and it may touch that. And then the other thing I was thinking about doing was ovaling this hole out, which is going to be a bit hard. So I might leave that for now and see how we go, both of them, and then put them all back together. I can get the die grinder in here and open this up if need be. So I'm going to put these pedals back together, chuck it all in the car, and I'll show you the steering column mount. Alright, I got the pedals all back together. The pins are all greased, everything, all the bushes are all clean and greased. I put a little rubber pad just here, so when you let the clutch out, it doesn't hit the stopper and make a bit of a rattle. Probably won't make much difference, but factory would have had it, so it's in there. I've ordered new pedal rudders, so they're on their way. So let's bolt this in the car and see how it all fits. Alright, so the good news is the pedals fit, which I knew that anyway, because they're pretty much stock. So I haven't done the bottom bolts up properly because I may need to pull them out again. The rod that pushes on the master cylinder from the brake pedal, I can't find it. It should clear, but I want to get it and make sure before I actually bolt it in good and proper. So I'm just going to leave this for now until I find that rod and move on to something else. Alright, so the next job to do is to make the steering column mount in properly and then repaint all this stuff, make it look nice. So I'm going to get rid of these two tacks here and then clean up the column itself, then clean up these mounts, get them painted, and then I need to work out what's going on up here, but that's a later problem. So for now what I want to do is just cut this off, get it all cleaned up and bolt it in the car. Alright, another day on the Corolla. So I got the bonnet to actually latch, got some stuff back from zinc coating so that'll latch and stay shut. I've just put a cable tie under here for now, so instead of the bonnet cable you can just pull the cable tie and then the bonnet comes up. So if you open up the bonnet, we've got the freshly zinced strut tops, the prop, and then the two latch parts. I've used non-zinc bolts here. These ones are from an IS 300 or something. They're just not zinced and I have a bit more trust in them. Apparently the zinc can make the bolts brittle, so these two are zinc as well, because the last thing I want is the bonnet flying up. Happened to a mate of mine recently and it's not good. It's not a good time. So this now shuts properly, which is sweet, but the more exciting thing, I got my wheels. So I got some wheels from Japan. You can't really see them on this side very well. And they are 14x6 plus 15. Took a long time for them to get here, but they look really good. So I need to get some tyres fitted, which are over there somewhere. And they're actually reasonably spicy on the front, because these Ke10s you can't really fit very good wheels. And then on the back, not very spicy. The only problem with that is the back is rolled and the front is not. So may have to work that out. I don't know what I'm going to do there. I don't really want to roll this fresh paint because I will ruin it, but we'll see how we go. So I got the wheels on, which is good. So there's the bonnet, the wheels. Tried to glue this boot seal on with some 2-part epoxy. It just fought me and I got really annoyed with it really quickly. And I don't want to get glue all over the paint, so I moved on to something else, which is the doors. They now have strikers in there. Driver's side shot's really nice. The passenger side, you have to actually slam it. So I'm sure once I put more seals in there, it'll get harder. So the bonnet stays shut, the doors stay shut, and the boot stays shut, so it can actually go to upholstery. I have wheels, I need to put the tyres on, and they can actually go, which is a good start. That's the end of this month, so trying to get everything ticked off the list to get it ready for upholstery. So on that note, I got a bit of a list going. I need to dig the back seat out, the carpet, I need to dig that out, put the steering column back in, which I've painted, it's ready to go in. The door plastic's probably a last minute thing, but the door cards are a big one. I keep putting it off. Then I got to cut a parcel shelf out, which I'll do at the same time as the door cards. So that's what I'm going to try and do with this afternoon. So I got all the wood, got the car, let's just get into it. All right, I've been putting it off, but it's time to cut out the interior. So this is the parcel shelf. I'm going to double it up because I couldn't get a piece that was long enough and wide enough. So I just got a bigger piece and then I'll just make two and glue them together. And then I've got a trick to try and hold it down. I don't know if it's going to work, but I can use the second layer to hide the idea. So if that works, it's good. Got the boot floor that needs to be glued to the carpet, and then the door cards and the rear door cards. I did just realise a minute ago that the door card is not going to work on the back because it needs to be really thin. So this is 5mm, so it'll be good for the door cards, but the rears I'm probably going to have to get a thinner material, so like a 3mm, and put it in the back. So I'll cut one out anyway, see if it fits at all, and go from there. But I've been putting this off for like 2 weeks, I don't know why, just not interested. But today's the day, so let's get into it. Got the stand over there, let's cut this stuff out. Alright, so I've got to film again, of course. This is the boot floor, so that's been cut down to length. Cut one of the door cards out and one of the rear cards out. They do need to be on a thinner material, which is a little bit annoying, but it fits really good. The driver's door card fits pretty good. I haven't really tested it all that much. I need to drill all the holes and mark all that stuff. That's a tomorrow job. And then I got distracted by rebuilding calipers, which you can't even see. So the calipers are rebuilt. They're JFZs or Wilwards. So it's just a O-ring, so pull them all apart. O-ring, piston back in, that's pretty much it. The front wheels don't fit by this much. I can't exaggerate how close it is. It's just hitting the back of where the spoke meets the barrel. So we've got a little space around at the moment. It's probably going to stay, but there is ways around it. Like you can move the disc rotor in and the caliper in, and it's all a bit of a thing. Whereas at the moment, 5mm spacer will suffice. And then we got the parcel shelf all cut out, so this is 2 layers. So what I think I'm going to do is take a fair bit off the bottom one, and then in the top one can sit nice and snug, and the vinyl will wrap just around it, but then the bottom one is currently too tight and there's no room for the vinyl. So if I cut a little bit off the bottom one, it'll bring that in and then I can wrap it around. So I think it's pretty good, but that's more of tomorrow's problem. So we'll just get back in it tomorrow and cut these guys out. Alright, so I spent all day in the shed and I haven't filmed a single thing. So the rear door card, other than it not slipping at the top, actually fits really well. So I'm going to use that as a template for the thinner stuff when I get some. I spent all day drilling out the door cards, and I think I cut the other one yesterday. So you can see I've got all the bolts in. So 2 of them have been re-drilled and one of them is a little bit off. And then this one here is for the other door. And this is the one I did all the measurements and drilled everything 50 times, and there was a little bit of wobble drill, but it's actually pretty good. I need to work out a way to hold it onto the actual door itself other than just pushing bolts through. So it is getting there. I'll finish these off camera and they'll get sent off with the rest of the car to get upholstered. So another thing I haven't shown on camera is the steering column is in. So I've got the new mount up. They're just temporary bolts for now, and everything lines up really nicely. Nothing hits and it all clears by the skin of your teeth. So it looks really good. Aiden's got this section here for the indicator stalk. I made one many years ago to suit a Ke10 indicator stalk on a Ke70 column, and it's a lot trickier than it looks. So I'm going to get Aiden to make me one, well 2 actually, one for this and one for my wagon. So what I've done is I've given that to Aiden, given him some measurements, given him all the bits, and just asked him to make me one on the mill because it's going to be a whole lot nicer than what I can come up with, and I need 2 of them. Alright, that's all for this week on the Ke10. I hope you've enjoyed the progress. I'm sorry it's all everywhere, but we're getting somewhere, so it feels pretty good. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.